Hey, welcome into the Metabolic Coaching Show.
Hey, that was
Dr.
great, Gluten.
Justin Anderson. You like that? You
I
like
like
that? I get it right. Some people...
Very professional.
I try.
You're very professional.
I try. I try to be every once in a while, although sometimes it doesn't work out for me. Dr. Justin Anderson here in studio with us. Doc, what's the best way to get a hold of you if folks want to find out more in depth about metabolic coaching?
There's two ways. Number one, the website, metabolic-coaching.net. And number two, you can call my cell phone, 806-448-0322. That's 448-0322 locally. And I encourage anyone who's a subscriber or a client, I always tell people if they have questions, they can follow up at the weekly follow-up meetings, or they can just call into the show.
There you go.
And so they can call into the show, get any questions they need answered, 745-5800. That's here at the show, 806-745-5800.
Call or text into that number, 806-745-5800. Man, for whatever reason, all these texts just came in for the previous
For the gun show?
Yeah. And no, they were from earlier, but they didn't show up until just now. So if you're listening, still listening, apologize for not getting to those. But obviously it's available, 806-745-5800, if you want to text your questions in for Dr. Anderson.
A text for the previous show coming in during this show is a lot better than the calls coming in.
It's true. That's true. We can actually skip those on there. So, Doc, I know you wanted to talk about follow-ups today. What is involved with those follow-ups and what those kind of look like?
One of the things we do with the metabolic coaching program is we do an introductory course and we teach people the foods to eat to kind of control blood sugar, lose weight, etc. And then one of the other things we do is I follow up with everybody by email. I send them an email a couple times a week to keep them on track. In addition to that, they can email or text me whatever questions they have. We get back to them. I get back to them within usually 48 hours. And then once a week, either on Wednesday or on Friday, we have follow-up meetings. And so the follow-up meetings, we meet as a small group, and in some ways it's like a support group because you get to hear everybody's successes and struggles, and we share recipes and menu ideas and where to shop things, and everybody gets their questions answered by me if they have a question for me, and also by the group. And so I brought in lots of times at the follow-ups I'll write down on the board just kind of everybody's progress to see where everybody is. And so I wanted to just kind of go through that. I printed off a few of them, and just to give you an idea of what it looks like once you get into the metabolic coaching program. And so, looking at the first printout, we just go around the circle and I ask everybody, how was your week? What's going on? If they're struggling with diabetes, then I ask them about their blood sugars. And so the first person, their fasting blood sugar went from 130 to 90. And normal blood sugars are going to be 124 or below. And dead normal blood sugar is 83. There's this guy named Richard K. Bernstein, and he writes this book called Dr. Bernstein's Diabetes Solution. And he's had diabetes himself for like 60 years. And he's treated diabetics for 40 years. Yeah. And dead normal blood sugar is 83. So if you can get your fasting blood sugars down to 90, that's in the non-diabetic range. And with low blood sugars like 90s, you're not going to end up having diabetic complications like neuropathy, heart disease, kidney disease, retinopathy, problem with your eyes, etc. And the next person that we went to at the follow-up, she said her congestion was gone. And I get that real frequently because part of the metabolic coaching diet is that you cut out the carbohydrates, but it's also wheat-free and gluten-free. And for a lot of people, when you cut out the wheat and the gluten, a lot of those sinus allergies, nasal symptoms, they all go away.
Right, because that's a big gluten intolerance, and then, of course, the wheat, that has a lot to do with allergies.
Yeah, it
right?
does.
Rather than just its effect on your body, that's more along the lines of the allergies. I look at this from, my wife is allergic to wheat. She's allergic to everything.
Right.
actually, but we'll both eat a wheat bread sandwich or something, and she'll make her feel like crap, and
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Well, I'll tell you, and this is a story I've told it 1,000 times, but I don't know if I've told it that often on the radio show, and that's what got me interested in diet at all in the first place. And about 4.5 years ago, my wife is kicking me out of bed every single night because she can't sleep.
Snoring?
Because I'm snoring. And at that point, I knew it's because I'd gotten too fat. I was like 213.5 pounds. And I count the half because if you lose a half a pound, you should take credit for it, right?
Exactly. Any loss of weight is lost weight.
And so I was 213 pounds, and I remembered something from medical school is that your body, it can run on carbohydrates, which your body turns into sugar, turns into blood sugar, or your body can run on fat. And if your body runs on fat, you burn off your own fat in the process. And so at that point, I just decided I'm done eating the carbohydrates, the bread, the pasta, the potatoes. I cut those deals out of my diet, and within 3 months, I lost 30 pounds. And within 6 months, I'd lost 40 pounds. And I got to sleep in my own bed again. You know, my wife wasn't kicking me out. Because what happens is when you put on weight, you don't just put it around your middle, you also put it around your airway. You grow fat around your airway. And so you end up with snoring, sleep apnea, those sort of things. So that got me interested first. And then the second thing was allergies. Because my son, he was 3 years old, and he had horrible allergies. And he would sneeze and sneeze and sneeze, these snot strands from his nose down to his waist. And so this 3-year-old, we would tie a napkin around his neck.
Oh, no.
So that when he was walking around the house sneezing all over himself, it would get on the napkin.
Right.
And instead of getting on his clothes. And so we made him an appointment at the allergist, and that was going to be 6 weeks away. And my wife read this book called Wheat Belly. And in Wheat Belly, it says some children have allergies, eczema, asthma because of the wheat in the diet, the gluten. They're allergic to the gluten. And so she said, well, let's try this wheat-free diet and see if he gets better. And I told her, you're crazy. Because I've been to medical school. And in medical school, they said, look, nasal sinus allergies are caused by local irritation from dust and dander and pollen and cotton ginning and all this stuff floating around in the air, getting up into your sinuses and irritating them. It's not caused by goldfish and crackers and bread. But I already wasn't.
I'm not giving up goldfish. That's the first.
You're sticking with it. I'm
sorry.
There are lots of parents who they wouldn't know what to do.
No.
If they didn't give their kids goldfish, you know.
It's a staple in a lot of children's diets when it comes to.
And you send them to church,
snacks.
And they get goldfish in the
pews and all over the floor, and yeah.
And so we cut the wheat out of the diet, and within 3 days, all of that snot and sneezing and sinus things for my 3-year-old son completely went away. Gone.
It's impressive.
Unless we went to a birthday party and we'd say, well, let's let him have cake because all the other kids are having cake, and he would sneeze for 3 days, snot down to his waist. Or go to another birthday party and let him have chicken nuggets. And the chicken nuggets are breaded in wheat flour.
Right.
And so he would sneeze for 3 days. And so after making that mistake several times, if we go to a birthday party and bring the kids, we take our own cake or our own cookies or food, something like that. So
do those allergies last? I mean, because I know that you're not supposed to feed eggs or honey or peanut butter before a certain age because of allergic reactions or allergies or whatnot. But after a certain age, you're able to supposedly able to feed toddlers.
You know, I've got a friend
foods.
who's an allergist, and I talked to him. I talked to him about it because he's an allergist.
Yeah.
Right? And I thought, you know, he's dealing with all these allergic kids. Has he ever tried putting them on a gluten-free diet? And I chatted with him, and he said, oh, you know, he said most of the kids, they kind of grow out of it when they get to be kind of teenage years.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, you know, you could suffer with 16 years of horrible allergies, or you could just cut out the wheat and the gluten and save your child 16 years of. And the other thing is that, like, I mean, my wife has had allergies, and she's had allergy shots. She had them when she was a kid through high school, college, all that sort of thing. And I think if you ask most children, would they prefer a weekly allergy shot or would they prefer to eat gluten-free? Which you don't have to be as restrictive on the carbohydrates for kids because kids are supposed to gain weight every year.
Sure.
So for adults, I say low carbohydrate diet is going to help you lose weight. Most kids, even if a kid is overweight, the child still doesn't need to lose weight. That's because the child is going to, if their weight stays the same and they grow taller next year, next year, they can grow out of it. And so for treating childhood, there's an endocrinologist in California, and he treats childhood diabetes and obesity, and he treats them with a diet that's no sugar, and the only thing they can drink, so no sugar added to anything, period.
Right.
The only things they can drink are water and milk. No fruit juice, no sodas. And if you put a kid on a no sugar diet, then a lot of time, no sugar diet, and they just drink water or milk, they can grow out of their diabetes and grow out of their weight problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So that's the second thing that got me involved was the allergies. And the third thing that got me involved was that my wife had she failed her glucose tolerance test when she was pregnant.
Right.
And when that happens, they tell you they don't give you any medication. They just say watch what you eat and check your sugar. And so if she ate a heart healthy whole grain bran muffin,
Yeah.
it'd blow her blood sugar out of the water. But if she ate a 3-egg omelet with bacon and sausage, her blood sugar stayed dead normal. And I thought, for these diabetics, the diet we recommend for diabetics is more of these whole grains and more carbohydrates, more heart-healthy whole grains. But those are the same foods that are making their blood sugars uncontrollable.
So is that, there's trying to think of the way to say this. There's not a lot of sugar in there, right? It's just the way that your body metabolizes that and how it increases your insulin, right?
Now, see, what happens is we know that table sugar is bad for us. Like table sugar is not a health food. And
so if I go out and grab a couple of those packets of sugar, open them up, and just dump them down the throat, that's not going to be good for me?
it's not going to be good for you. And see, and we know, intuitively you think, well, if I eat table sugar, it's going to raise my blood sugar.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
But where we've got it wrong is that a slice of bread will raise your blood sugar higher than a tablespoon of table sugar, even if it's whole wheat bread. The glycemic index of a slice of bread is 71. Glycemic index of table sugar is 68. And so that means that your slice of bread raises your blood sugar and higher than table sugar. And likewise, lots of diabetics and some just patients or people with cholesterol problems, they'll eat oatmeal every day.
Yeah.
Because oatmeal's supposed to be good for you.
It is. I mean, it says it right.
It's got a heart check on
The heart
deal.
check, the American Heart Association, probably the Diabetes Association says it's good for you, right?
A bowl of instant oatmeal has a glycemic index of 83. So that means that the instant oatmeal raises your blood sugar higher than bread and higher than table sugar. And so that's where we've kind of got it wrong.
So why does it do this? I mean, I'm trying to.
Okay, what your body does
in my mind here.
Your body, if you look on any package, it has listed the total carbohydrates.
Right.
Your body takes, and it'll say grams. Your body takes those grams of carbohydrates and converts them all into blood sugar, except for the fiber.
Okay.
So let's say on your oatmeal, a cup of oatmeal will have 32 net carbohydrates, and it'll have 4 grams of fiber. And so 32 minus 4 is 28.
Right. So 28 is going to be your net.
28 your net, and your body
Okay.
turns those 28 grams of carbohydrates into 28 grams of sugar in your bloodstream.
Okay.
That's digestion.
Sure.
That
sure.
is digestion.
That makes sense to me. Let's go out to the phones. Good morning. Welcome into the show.
Hey, I've been diabetic for about 20 years, and I wear an insulin pump.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're having kind of a hard time getting your point across.
Tell me about it. I'm ready.
In general. Okay, so here's the deal. This is what happens when you're diabetic, and I know your conversation isn't targeted.
Hey, Tom, is that
specifically
you,
to
Tom?
diabetes. It is I.
Hey, what's up? But Thank you for
trying
calling
to
in.
make life easier for you.
Because one of
Right,
my
so
big points today is I wanted for the second half of the show, I wanted to ask, what's holding people back from doing the program. So hit us.
All right, so here's the deal. Everything that you eat turns to sugar. Everything you eat turns to sugar. It's just a matter of how fast it metabolizes before it exits your body. So the thing is if you are a normal person, non-diabetic, everything that you eat that turns to sugar, insulin is kind of like Velcro that attaches sugar to the red blood cell that takes it throughout the body for everything to eat. Every cell to eat sugar.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a diabetic and you don't have a sufficient amount of insulin in your body, then what happens is your body's not being fed the sugar, and so your blood sugar gets higher, but your body still eats. Now, what do you suppose it eats if it doesn't have sugar? It eats itself. That's why people have capillary damage. That's why people have, ocular damage, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but anyway, here's the thing. When you eat, and you eat sugar, and you eat, things that you metabolize fast into carbohydrates, milk, wheat, bread, grains, all this other stuff, your body has to crank up and go into overdrive and make so much more insulin. And so whenever I got onto this program, I was being a lot insulin resistant. So when I got on the program, I actually had reduced my insulin consumption over 3,000 units a month.
Wow.
So what I do now is when you wear an insulin pump, you have two different rates. You have a basal rate, which is like a fasting rate. In other words, whether you eat or not, your body makes insulin.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Okay? And so when you eat, the pump is there, or people, count their carbs and cover it with insulin so they can handle the spike. Well, what I've done is because I get on I'm on my program and I'm on in my groove, I don't very rarely do I ever hit my pump and jack it up. I'm just on my basal rate.
Yeah, and that's great. And the less insulin you take as a type 1 diabetic, then the less insulin resistant you are. So it helps improve your insulin resistance, which helps you lose weight along the way.
Now, the thing is for type 1s, this is a ketonic diet.
Yes.
Okay, so for people that are type 1, it's very, very hard to be a diabetic and be a type 1 diabetic and not consume some type of carbohydrate. And one caution here, too, because in a ketonic diet, where you get ketones is from carbs. So you don't need a lot of carbs, but there has to be some sort of carb intake. But it's stuff that people don't even consider to be carbohydrates. For instance, you pick up a box of Tic Tacs, 0 carbs. Well, basically the increment of measure is so infinitesimal that it doesn't show up, and so the FDA says, you don't have to put that on the label.
Right, because if the serving is like 0.9 grams of carbs, then they'll say 0.
So the thing is here's the deal. So you eat 1, okay. You eat 3 or 4, and then you're going to get a blood sugar spike.
That's exactly right.
Just because, this labeling stuff, and I know that a lot of people think that, a lot of these labeling issues and stuff like that are a bunch of BS. But the fact of the matter is, if the labels aren't accurate, and you don't really know what's in there, because the labels are accurate based on the weight and measure and the increment of measure. And so what you have to do is you just have to step back. Nobody's going to advocate for you and your body but yourself. I will tell you this, like I said in the session. I went in to see my endocrinologist, no names mentioned. But he looked at it, and his nurse said that my pump was malfunctioning. And I said, no, it's not. He said, well, you basically, your average bolus rate is like 4 units, and you've only bolused like 12 times in the last 3 months.
Right.
And so I essentially told him what I was doing. He goes, Tom, I don't know what exactly the hell you're doing, but keep doing it. But the thing is if you completely have zero carbs in your diet and you're type 1 diabetic, then you could hit the wall called ketoacidosis.
Well, that actually doesn't happen because ketoacidosis is a combination of two things. It's a combination of extremely high blood sugars combined with extremely high ketone levels. And so blood sugars of 500, 600 combined with ketones in the level of 25. If you're eating a very low carbohydrate diet like you're doing, your ketones will be mildly elevated only to 5, not 25. And your blood sugars will be excellent. They'll be in the, around 100 instead of 500. So it's called ketosis lipolysis when you're, it's called ketosis lipolysis when you're burning ketones. You're on a low carb diet.
Why didn't you say so?
Well,
lipolysis. That was making it funny there, man.
Yeah, lipolysis just means burning fat. It means burning
Right.
fat and turning that fat into ketones. But people ask that all the time, So aren't I going to go into diabetic ketoacidosis if this diet is a keto adapted type of diet? And the answer is no, because you're going to have normal blood sugar. You're not going to have super high blood sugar. And diabetic ketoacidosis has to have two things: high sugar combined with very high ketone levels.
Okay, man. Well, hey, how's your program going?
I think it's going great, Tom. The clients are doing well. We're always looking for more people, and we're always willing to. We always have openings every week, and so I think it's going great, and hopefully we'll just continue to grow.
Well, just saying, it works.
Thank you, man. Thanks for the call.
You bet.
There you go.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is people say, he brings up a good point. People say, well, you type 1 diabetes, you can't reverse type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes, you have it for the rest of your life, and that's true. And so Tom is still a type 1 diabetic, but he's got better blood sugar control. He uses less insulin. And actually, he said he decreased his insulin by like 3,000 units a month. Well, his insulin for his pump is very expensive. And so he saved a lot of money by doing that.
And here's the thing about all, with metabolic coaching, with integrative medicine, with any kind of new quote-unquote medicine, folks nowadays are more involved in their health.
Yes.
Right? Back in the day, generation prior, 10, 15 years ago, it was, well, I'm going to go to the doctor. The doctor's going to tell me what I need to do, and I'm not going to ask any questions.
Right.
Because the doctor knows. Well, there's new research, there's new methodology, there's new ways to do things that people these days want to know. Right? They want to know what's going on with their health, not just to be told how to do it. And this is the coaching aspect of it is perfect because you're coaching folks how to do things, not just simply telling them, hey, go take 2 aspirin, come see me in the morning.
Because the standard appointment with the doctor, 7 minutes in there with the MD is not long enough for you to learn anything or to get the point across. So we do 2 hours, and then we follow up weekly with hour-long follow-ups.
Back out to the phone lines. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Hey, this is Tom again. I just wanted to iterate one other thing about endocrinologists and diabetes and certified diabetes educators. Whenever you come down and you're diagnosed with diabetes, or if you visit with nutritionist, basically people tell you they're like selling you this dream, and they're saying, oh, well, we can help you manage your diabetes and maintain your lifestyle. Well, the whole deal is if you want to live a long and happy life, what you need to do is change your behavior instead of figuring out how you can cheat on an exchange scale and just do a little bit more insulin.
Yeah, change your lifestyle.
Because what they say is you go through all this stuff and they say, well, you learn these exchanges and, you can eat this instead of that and this instead of that. And if you do this, then you can just do a little more insulin. And, fact of the matter is, why don't you just cut to the chase and get healthy? And end of sentence. Sorry to bother you again.
All right, no problem. Thanks for calling. But Tom has a good point there, because, when it comes to treating blood sugar for a type 2 diabetic or a type 1 diabetic, you can either A, eat the carbohydrates and treat the blood sugar on the back end.
Sure.
With pills, injections, insulin, etc. Or you just don't eat the carbohydrates, then you require less pills, injections, insulin, medication.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yep.
Monetarily and pharmaceutically speaking as well.
Another one of the things we go through on the follow-ups is that a goal for a lot of the people is going to be weight loss.
Right.
And so, a lot of people will say what they lost this week. And so on this week's follow-ups, the one that we're looking at, the first person had lost 2 pounds and had lost 18 total. The next person lost 6 pounds, indigestion's gone, lost 2 pounds and up 3. So down 2, up 3, but has lost a total of 18 so far.
Yeah.
There's just a general, I feel better. You get that a lot. People have more energy because when you stop burning sugar and you start burning fat, you have higher energy levels. Lost 45 pounds total. Talk about a diabetic again. Blood sugars have gone from the 250s to 107. And 250 is pretty severely uncontrolled diabetes.
Sure.
107 that's in the normal range. That's a non-diabetic blood sugar range.
And these are fasting ranges, right? This isn't, I just ate a cheeseburger or whatever it is.
These are fasting.
5 hours before, and now this is what my levels are. This is fasting for 12 hours or more.
An interesting thing that happens on this diet, this metabolic coaching diet, is that for most type 2 or even type 1, for most type 2 diabetics, their lowest blood sugar of the day is their fasting blood sugar. Because the rest of the day they're eating some bread, some carbohydrates, some cereal, and so their sugars are higher than they're fasting all the rest of the day.
Right.
On this metabolic coaching low-carb diet, usually their fasting blood sugar is their highest sugar of the day. Their highest sugar of the day is first thing in the morning, and then after that, throughout the rest of the day, they're lower. So this person whose fasting blood sugar is 107, that's probably their highest sugar of the day, and the rest of the day they're probably running 90 or 100.
Do you ever test that? Do you ever have them test that rate?
The clients test it themselves. I have them test it because sometimes what will happen is they'll start off they'll say, my fasting blood sugars used to be 250.
Sure.
And now my fasting blood sugars are 135.
But do you have them test it during the day as well? Have it do your fasting,
that's
but then look at it.
That's what I'm telling you. And so they'll say my fasting blood sugar is 135.
Sure.
But I wish I had better sugars, and so at that point I'll tell them, well, check your blood sugars throughout the day, and that should be your highest blood sugar. And sure enough, the 135 will be their highest blood sugar, and during the day they're running 110s.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Quick break. Going to come back. I know on the other side you wanted folks to call in, text in, tell you what's their hesitation.
What's holding you back? What's holding you back from joining the program?
806-745-5800. Call or text into that number. We'll be back with more on the other side. Stick around. Welcome back into the Metabolic Coaching Radio Show with Dr. Justin Anderson here on your Tuesday morning. It feels like a Monday, but it's a Tuesday.
It does.
It does. It's I didn't want to get up this morning, but I did it anyway.
Well, I made it in before the show started, so.
You did. You made it here on time. Which you always do. You're always here on time, unlike some other folks, maybe myself included. I don't know. So reasons for not joining the program, 745-5800, 806-745-5800. If you want to text into the show, one of the things that I look at, Doc, and you've seen that with the old Atkins diet, right? The no carb diet,
right?
Is and I think I know the answer to this question or this response, but I'll say it anyways because a lot of people say this is, well, right, I'm going to go on this diet, quote unquote diet, I'm not going to do any carbs. I'm going to do very low carbs, very few carbs. But then as soon as I'm going to lose all this weight, but as soon as I go back to carbs, I'm going to gain it all right back.
That's exactly right.
And so that's I think for a lot of people, that's the issue is they view it as a diet.
A diet.
And it can't be a diet.
Yeah, one of the things that I stress to people is that, if eating the standard American diet, which is 65% carbohydrates, if it makes you overweight or diabetic or gives you high blood pressure or makes you feel fatigued or whatever, then you are carbohydrate intolerant.
Yeah.
Just like some people are lactose intolerant, they can't tolerate milk without getting digestive upset, etc. Well, most Americans and 100% of the people that I see in the metabolic coaching program are carbohydrate intolerant, which means that carbohydrates, too many carbohydrates in the diet, cause them to gain weight, become diabetic, get high blood pressure. It messes up their HDL and their triglycerides, which are cholesterol measures. And so let's say you are a type 2 diabetic, you get on a low carbohydrate diet, you lose 50 pounds, and you get off all your diabetes medications, and you have normal blood sugars now. So, I mean, you got normal blood sugars. Now, what do you do then? You do nothing. You stay on a low carbohydrate diet because you will be carbohydrate intolerant your entire life. But you don't have to have diabetic blood sugars and the complications of diabetes and all those sort of things. And you don't have to be overweight, but you will be carbohydrate intolerant. And the reason is that basically carbohydrates are designed to make us fat. And they're designed to make us fat. If you think about man running around in the wild, 10,000 years ago, even before agriculture, when man ran around in the wild, the only time there would be a substantial amount of sugar available, like fruits, would be in the late summer and the fall.
Right.
The fruits, even if you're digging wild potatoes, I mean, the wild potatoes, they're not going to be there. They're not going to be available in the winter. They're not going to be available in the spring. It's going to be late summer and fall that all the fruits are ripe. And you're supposed to eat all those fruits as much as you can so that you can put on weight so that you can get fat. You're supposed to get fat because what's coming next is winter. And in winter, there's going to be shortage of food. There's not going to be any fruits or vegetables. But what happens now is that we have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week available fruit, sugar, flour, etc.
Yeah.
And so we fatten up for the winter. The winter never comes. The other thing is that if you think back to those kind of Paleolithic days before man was farming, he had a very low carbohydrate intake, and it increased some with the agricultural revolution when we began to grow grains, rice, oats, etc. But what has happened in the last 200 years is that it's gotten to the point to where the average American consumes 150 pounds of sugar, along with 150 pounds of flour every year. So that's
a lot of sugar and flour.
That's a lot of sugar and flour. And so your body can't handle that. Your body doesn't know what to do with it. Your body just stores it away.
Yeah.
Stores away the flour and sugar, stores it away as fat. And so that's why 2/3 of Americans are overweight or obese, because number one, their body is designed to store fat. It's designed to store fat for the winter that never comes. And number two, we're eating 150 pounds of sugar and flour on average every year. And that combination causes the health crisis and the epidemics we have today.
Yeah, I think you get into some things when you look at not only our diet as an American society,
Mm-hmm.
but you look at our work as well, right? You used to have the average diet now, right? 65% carbohydrates.
65%.
Is that the
Standard American
that's the
diet.
standard? 30 years ago might not be an issue, right? Because we're not all sitting behind a desk. We're not all in front of a computer screen all day. We're out in the field. They were out, manufacturing things, whether that was sweeping the streets or whether that was building ships, doing any kind of, it was all physical labor. It wasn't necessarily what we do now, which is, hey, I'm sitting behind a microphone all day talking on the radio. I'm sitting behind a computer typing a report or.
But the one thing I don't want you to get lost in is thinking, oh, well, I just need to go to the gym more. Because I think we discussed that. If you've ever seen the video where the guy runs on the treadmill to work off 2 slices of pizza or whatever, he runs on the treadmill for 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
To work off 2 slices of pizza. So just being more active on its own. What I tell doesn't do it. And what I tell people is this, that if you want to lose weight, improve your diabetes, blood pressure, it's 90 to 95% diet. And then there's kind of that 5 to 10% that need exercise.
Sure. It's a lifestyle change is what it is.
That's one of the things that we do in the follow-up meetings is that there are some people, and some people kind of, they know it intuitively. They're like, for me to lose weight, I do need to exercise some. And so they'll do the diet, and if they're stuck, then we'll say, yeah, why don't you go back and do your exercise program some and see what happens. And so I recommend exercise. It has a lot of beneficial effects, exercise does, but I recommend it for very few clients along the way.
And what I was meaning by that example was not just to go exercise more. What it was really, you go out and you work on, instead of 8 hours sitting behind a computer, you've got 8 hours hitting a hammer. You got 8 hours sawing a tree.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's 8 hours a day of actually physical labor doing something. So you're burning more calories. You're using whatever it is you're eating, whereas now we're not, right?
But one of the arguments in the book Wheat Belly by William Davis, the cardiologist, is that the housewife of the 1950s was not particularly more active than the housewife today.
Sure.
But the housewife of the 1950s had an obesity rate of, I'm going to ballpark the number of, maybe 6%.
Right.
And the housewife of today is 66% is overweight or obese. So activity, I do think activity plays some into it, but I think it's a minor role. Because the obesity epidemic didn't really hit until about 1980, moving forward until today.
Text coming in to me. If you want to text me, fine. If you want to text show, 806-745-5800. Ask the doc how many carbs I can have under his program a day.
What we try to do in the metabolic coaching program is we try to put you into a state of ketosis.
Right.
And ketosis means that your body is relying on fat for energy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, instead of relying on sugar.
Okay.
Because that means it keeps your blood sugar dead normal all day long, which keeps your insulin levels as low as they can be all day long. And so we put people on a diet that's 20 grams of net carbohydrates daily. And that's what Atkins called induction.
Right.
So 20 grams. An apple has 24 grams of net carbohydrates. A banana has 32 grams of net carbohydrates.
So I eat my banana, I'm done.
Literally, banana, you're done.
Done.
A cup of unflavored, full-fat, plain yogurt has 11 to 15 net carbohydrates. Although yogurt's interesting because yogurt, they count the carbs before it's fermented. So yogurt actually has less carbohydrates than what the label says, although I don't know exactly how to measure that. The best way to measure that would be to check your blood sugar.
Right.
And diabetics, in a way, have a real advantage because they can test every single thing I'm saying. They can test it. All you do is you check your sugar before you eat.
Yeah.
Before you eat a cup of yogurt or before you eat a slice of bread, and then check it an hour and 2 hours later. And that's what I'll tell people, especially people who are addicted to oatmeal. They're addicted to oatmeal.
So good though.
And I'll say, eat a 3-egg omelet with bacon and cheese and sausage on it. Check your blood sugar before.
Yeah.
Hour and 2 after. Do the same thing with oatmeal.
Right.
And they'll see that their blood sugar after the oatmeal goes to 250, 300, 320. So I used to kind of customize how many carbohydrates I put people on. And I would, if you're a young, active male, say you're a 20-year-old athlete, maybe you could eat less than 100 net carbs a day and lose weight. If you're like a 30-year-old active female, maybe you have to go down to less than 50. But if you're postmenopausal female, you have to go down to less than 20. Or if you're diabetic, or if you have metabolic syndrome, which is combination of several things. But what I found is that a lot of people would go down to less than 50 and they wouldn't make any progress. And then I would say, that's no problem. We'll just cut it down to 20. And they'd say, oh, I can't do it. And they just quit. So it's like stopping smoking.
Right.
It's a lot easier to, you just cut them all out. You go down to less than 20. And what I found is that if you go down to less than 20, put you into ketosis, where you're running on fat, you feel so much better. And when you feel so much better, you'll cheat by getting your hamburger with buns or whatever on the way out of town on a road trip. And then people, they'll call me or they'll text me and say I got a burger with the bun on it because we were leaving town, and by the time I got to post, I mean, we just had to stop. We felt so horrible. And people just, they feel better when they stay at less than 20.
Right.
And the deal is why? It's because if you're overweight or obese, it's because you're carb intolerant. Same thing for diabetes. And so the text came in, and the text was, how many can I have on the diet?
Yeah.
Well, there's about 1/3 of Americans who are normal weight.
Right.
And so is this diet the right diet for them? No. And so the diet is not a diet for everybody.
Sure.
It's for the 2/3 of Americans who are overweight, obese, have diabetes, blood pressure problems, etc. It's not. If you have a normal weight and you eat, there's Freely, the banana girl on YouTube, and she's a vegetarian. She eats like 32 bananas a day, and she's like a yoga instructor. Whatever. And so am I trying to convince Freely, the vegetarian, banana-eating yoga instructor, that she needs to get on this diet? No.
Right.
You know, I don't need her on the diet, because if you're healthy and you feel great and you have a normal weight and your blood sugars are normal and you're not taking pills,
Yeah.
then for you can just keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So is this something that we're going to do? Say I go to the program, say I go sign up for the metabolic coaching. Do I have to just, so today I'm eating 65% of my diet is carbs.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow drop to 20 or less? Or is that a stepwise process? If I'm going to start with 65 and, a week later I'm going to drop it down to 40. A week later from that I'm going to drop it down to whatever, and with the eventual goal of getting to 20 grams.
The best way to do it is to drop it down to 20.
Just straight off?
Straight off. And the reason is, number one, like I told you, I used to try and bring those people down to 50.
Yeah.
To see if they would make progress, and if they didn't, then I would say, okay, well, we'll go down to 20.
Right.
And they think going down to 50 is like a real sacrifice, but then they're like, down to 20, impossible.
Right.
And so you just go straight down to 20. You start off at the beginning, number one.
Shock and awe.
Number two, if you're still eating 50 grams of carbohydrates a day, there's no guarantee that you're really in fat burning, because you're burning fat some of the day, you're burning sugar some of the day, so you're not getting the benefits. So you're doing this diet, you're cutting down your carbs, but you're not really feeling better. And if you're not feeling better, then what are you doing it for?
Yeah.
The great thing about doing this diet is, number one, it's not like starving yourself on some low-calorie diet where you suffer the whole time and you kind of feel crappy, so that you can feel better, in 6 months. It's
Right.
like, after doing the diet for a couple of weeks, you feel better, and you can feel better now and continue to lose weight, and feel better down the road also. The second or the third thing is that by leaving carbohydrates in the diet, sometimes you leave in some sugars and some bread, like wheat and gluten.
Yeah.
And both the sugars, like table sugar, honey, maple syrup, whatever, the sugars and the breads, they're addictive. They stimulate the reward center in your brain just like cocaine. They can do a functional MRI, and on these functional MRIs, when somebody eats sugar, it lights up the same part of the brain that cocaine does. And so, just like if you want to have a drug addict stop drugs, cutting down just doesn't work, because you're leaving the addictive substance in the life. And
Sure.
so, rather than cut down, you just go cold turkey and you cut it out.
That's tough for a lot of people.
Not for a guy like you.
Not for
A guy like you.
Let me caveat that by saying, once that switch clicks, right?
Mhm.
It's got to be that switch. I used the example a couple weeks ago of, in high school, after high school, up through college, I used to dip Copenhagen every day. It was like a can a day. And then one day it was just like, nah, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yep.
But that switch has to be turned. And it's not, I haven't figured out a way to manually turn that switch.
Yeah. I agree. The switch has to flip. It's hard to flip it. And I'll tell you that for people who come to the program to help flip the switch, we do two things. Number one, after we do the 2-hour introductory session, I have them watch a 6-hour online seminar.
Yeah.
And a 6-hour online seminar is designed to help them rethink everything they think about food.
Right.
Because we have 30 years of unlearning to do. Heart healthy whole grains are good for you. Oatmeal is a super health food, etc. Like all that
Right.
has to go. And number two, I send them home with either a CD or they can just listen to them off their phone online. And there's some subconscious reprogramming audio tracks. Sometimes I call them guided meditations, but people think meditation's religious. It's not religious at all. They're just some audio tracks that work like hypnosis.
Right.
And that they address your subconscious beliefs about food and help to flip the switch. And I've had so many clients who said, the best part of the whole program is those subconscious reprogramming tracks. I just don't have any cravings. And so that helps to flip the switch. And I'll explain to you how it works, is that when you're totally awake, you're in alpha brainwave state. So you're awake, you're conscious, your conscious
Right.
mind is on. When you're in deep, deep sleep, you're in delta brainwave state. And when you're passing, you listen to these audio tracks at night in bed while you're going to sleep. And the reason you do that, you do it every night, is because when you're going to sleep, you turn off your alpha brainwave state, which means you turn off your conscious mind.
Right.
And on your way to delta, you pass through theta brainwave state. And in theta brainwave state, you're suggestible. You're suggestible. You can be hypnotized because you have your conscious mind turned off. That theta brainwave state is that kind of half awake, half asleep state where if they reached over and touched you, you'd like wake up instantly.
Yeah.
And you'd have been dreaming something, but you weren't really asleep yet, but you were already having kind of a dream. It's that theta brainwave state. And so you listen to those audio tracks at night in bed going to sleep, and it helps to flip the switch.
So subconsciously, it's suggestive,
Mhm.
right? Not in the same sense of how movie theaters used to put the one little clip of Coca-Cola or popcorn or whatever it was in their movie, but in a fashion of theta sleep.
The way it works is that those audio tracks, there's 4 different ones.
Yeah.
You just pick one of the 4 to listen to at night in bed going to sleep. And it starts off, there's the sound of waves, calm you down.
Yeah.
We count down from 10 to 1 to relax your mind, kind of turn off your mind. And then after that, we start off, all of the audio tracks start off with, your body is perfect.
Yeah.
You were born perfect. There's nothing wrong with you that makes you overweight or diabetic or whatever. You just have to feed your body food that it understands. And your body doesn't understand the refined carbohydrates, the grains, and the sugars. If you're taking in 150 pounds of sugar and 150 pounds of flour every year, your body just can't handle that.
Yeah.
So it starts off with your body is perfect, and then we might talk about some subconscious beliefs that are okay to let go. Like, mama gave you bread and mama... This isn't in there.
Right.
Whatever the subconscious beliefs you had at the time, it's okay to let them go. You don't even have to identify them.
You're associating something subconsciously, literally subconsciously. You associate any number of things with something that happened in your life.
Yes, because your conscious mind is the 2% or 10% of your brain that you use.
Yeah.
The 90%, which is much more powerful, is this subconscious. And in there is, mama gave me bread and mama loved me.
Yeah.
I love ice cream. When I was a good boy, mama gave me ice cream, right?
Yeah.
That was a reward. Or I went to McDonald's and got fries and a drink, that was a treat. And so all these things that are treats and rewards and stuff like that, they're in there, and it's okay to let them go. And the same thing, we had a lady who, she had a medical background, her blood sugar, she had a medical background for years,
Yeah.
but her blood sugars were running 300. She was uncontrolled diabetic, and what she would bring in for breakfast in the morning was an August pie. It's one of those fried sugar pies from the
Yeah.
gas station.
Yeah.
And you know that those are, she knew
Yeah.
that that's not healthy for her. And those behaviors are self-destructive. And so you may here and there, if you have any self-destructive tendencies, it's okay to let them go.
Right.
You don't have to identify them. You can just let them go.
There you go. Metabolic Coaching, Dr. Justin Anderson. Doc, if they want to get a hold of you, listeners out there want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do it?
Go to the website, metaboliccoaching.net. You can see client videos there. You can pre-register for a course. You can join us for a Friday course, or call 806-448-0322.
There you go. Doc, always a pleasure. I won't see you for a few weeks, but when I get back, I will.
All right, enjoy your trip.
Always good sharing a mic with you. Stick around. Unconfused coming up right after this.